Welcome to the Deep Dive, brought to you by Afterwork. Today we're diving into a field that's just exploding right now, data engineering.
Oh, yeah, it really
You
is.
know how everyone's always talking about big data and how it's changing the world?
Right.
Well, data engineering is what makes all that possible.
It's true. Data engineering is kind of the hidden powerhouse behind so much of what we experience in our digital lives these days.
Yeah, and it's not just about tech companies, right?
No,
I mean, think about healthcare, finance, even your local grocery store. They all rely on data engineers to manage the flow of information that keeps everything running.
exactly. It's a field that's becoming more critical by the day, and the demand for those data engineering skills, it's through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. To kind of illustrate how impactful this field can be, let's just imagine a fictional character. Let's call him Alex. Alex has just landed his dream job as a data engineer at this retail tech startup. He's tasked with building a system to process real-time sales data, which will directly impact the company's inventory management, marketing campaigns, and ultimately their ability to keep customers happy.
Sounds like a pretty big responsibility.
It does.
So before we dive into Alex's journey, let's just take a step back and answer a fundamental question. What exactly is data engineering?
Right, because it's one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot, but not everyone really understands what it entails. So help us break it down. What does a data engineer actually do?
At its core, data engineering is all about designing, building, and maintaining the systems that collect, store, process, and make data accessible. Imagine you have data coming in from all sorts of different sources, websites, apps, sensors, you name it. It's the data engineer's job to create the pipelines that channel all this raw data into a usable format.
Okay, so it's kind of like building a plumbing system for data, creating those pipes that allow information to flow from one place to another.
That's a great analogy. And just like a plumbing system, a data pipeline needs to be carefully designed and maintained to ensure that the data flows smoothly and efficiently.
But it's not just about moving data around, right? There's also the whole process of cleaning and transforming the data, making sure it's accurate and reliable.
Absolutely. Think of it this way. You wouldn't want to drink water straight from a river, would you?
Definitely not.
Raw data is often messy and full of impurities. Data engineers use various techniques, often referred to as ETL, or extract, transform, load to clean, format, and structure the data so that it can be used for analysis and decision making.
So ETL is kind of like filtering and purifying the data, making it safe for consumption, so to speak.
Exactly. And once the data is clean and organized, it needs to be stored somewhere where it can be easily accessed and analyzed. This is where data warehouses come in.
I've heard of data warehouses, but I have to admit I'm not entirely sure what they are. Is it just a fancy term for a really big database?
It's a bit more than that. A data warehouse is specifically designed for storing and analyzing large volumes of data from multiple sources. It's like a central repository where all the company's data comes together to tell a comprehensive story.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, data engineers are kind of like the architects and builders of the data world. They create the infrastructure that allows organizations to harness the power of their data.
That's a great way to put it. They lay the foundation for data-driven decision-making, which is becoming more and more crucial in today's world.
Absolutely. But let's get back to our fictional data engineer, Alex. Remember, he's been tasked with building a real-time sales data pipeline for his company. What exactly does that entail, and what are some of the challenges he might face?
Well, Alex's first challenge is to figure out where all the sales data is coming from. Is it from the company's website, their mobile app, maybe even in-store point-of-sale systems?
Right.
He needs to map out that data journey and identify any roadblocks or bottlenecks.
So he needs to be a bit of a detective.
Exactly. He'll need to investigate the existing systems, understand how the data is collected, and figure out the best way to extract it and bring it into his pipeline.
Okay, so he's extracted the data. What happens next?
Well, this is where the transform part of ETL comes in. Alex needs to make sure the data is clean, consistent, and in the right format. Remember, the data might be coming from different sources, so there could be inconsistencies in how it's structured.
So he's basically standardizing the data, making sure it's all speaking the same language.
Exactly. This is a crucial step because if the data isn't clean and consistent, it's going to be really difficult to analyze and draw meaningful insights from it.
That makes sense. So he's extracted the data, cleaned it up. Now he needs to load it somewhere, right?
That's right. And this is where the data warehouse comes in. Alex will need to design and build the infrastructure that will store the processed data, making it readily available for analysis and reporting.
Wow. Sounds like Alex has his work cut out for him. But I have a feeling this is just the tip of the iceberg. What other challenges might he face as he builds this real-time sales data pipeline?
Well, one of the biggest challenges in real-time data processing is making sure that the data is processed quickly enough to be useful. Imagine if the sales data was delayed by hours or even minutes, that would make it much harder to make timely decisions about inventory and marketing.
So Alex needs to make sure his pipeline is optimized for speed and efficiency.
Exactly. He'll need to consider things like data volume, processing power, and network latency to ensure that the data flows through the pipeline without any hiccups.
It sounds like data engineering is a field that requires a really unique blend of technical skills, problem-solving abilities, and maybe even a bit of creativity.
Absolutely. Data engineers need to be able to think critically, adapt to new challenges, and constantly learn and evolve as the field progresses.
Well, I'm definitely intrigued to learn more about Alex's journey and the challenges he faces as he builds this real-time sales data pipeline. Stay tuned because in the next part of our deep dive, we'll follow Alex as he navigates the complexities of data engineering and discovers the power of data-driven decision-making.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
So we left off with Alex, our intrepid data engineer, facing this monumental task of building a real-time sales data pipeline.
A task that will truly, truly test his data engineering skills and push him to the limits of his creativity.
You know, I think a lot of people underestimate the complexity of what data engineers do.
It's true, they're the unsung heroes of the data world.
So where do we find Alex as he starts to tackle this challenge?
Well, we find him knee-deep in data, of course, surrounded by spreadsheets, diagrams, and lines of code, trying to make sense of this just vast amount of sales information flowing into the company from all these different sources.
I imagine it's a bit like trying to piece together a giant jigsaw puzzle, except the pieces are constantly changing, new ones are being added all the time.
That's a great analogy. Alex needs to create a system that can handle this constant influx of data and transform it into something meaningful, something actionable.
So what's his first step? Does he just dive right in and start writing code?
Not quite. Before he can start building his pipeline, Alex needs to understand the data landscape. He needs to know where the data is coming from, what it looks like, and what kind of cleaning and transformation it needs.
So he's essentially creating a roadmap for his data journey.
Exactly. This involves mapping out the different data sources, identifying the key data points he needs to capture, and understanding the relationships between them.
And I imagine this is where his detective skills come in handy.
Absolutely. He needs to dig deep into those existing systems, interview stakeholders, even analyze sample data to get a clear picture of what he's working with.
Okay, so he's mapped out the data landscape and has a good understanding of the raw materials he's dealing with. What's next on the agenda?
Now it's time to start building the pipeline itself. This involves choosing the right tools and technologies for the job.
I remember you mentioned ETL extract, transform, load as a crucial process in data engineering. Does that come into play here?
Absolutely. Alex needs to figure out how to extract the relevant data from each source, transform it into a consistent format, and then load it into the data warehouse.
So it's kind of like a three-step recipe for preparing the data for analysis.
Exactly. And each step requires careful planning and execution.
Can you give us a little more detail about each of these steps?
Sure, let's start with extraction. This involves pulling the raw data from those various sources, which, could be anything from databases and APIs to flat files, even social media feeds.
So it's like gathering all the ingredients before you start cooking.
Exactly. Once Alex has gathered all that data, he needs to transform it. And this step is all about cleaning, standardizing, and enriching the data.
What kind of things might he do during this transformation stage?
Well, he might need to remove duplicates, handle missing values, convert data types, or even aggregate data points to create new insights.
So it's like prepping the ingredients, chopping vegetables, measuring spices, making sure everything is ready to go.
That's a great way to think about it. Finally, once the data has been transformed, it's time for the loading stage. This involves moving the processed data into the designated storage system, which is typically a data warehouse.
So it's like carefully placing all those prepared ingredients into the cooking pot.
Exactly. The ETL process is the backbone of any data pipeline, and Alex needs to make sure he gets it right.
But I imagine there are some unique challenges when it comes to building a real-time sales data pipeline, right?
Absolutely. Real-time data processing brings its own set of complexities.
Like what?
Well, for starters, the data is constantly flowing in, so the pipeline needs to be able to handle this continuous stream without getting overwhelmed.
That makes sense. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose. You need a way to manage the flow.
Exactly. Alex needs to design a system that can ingest, process, and store data in real time without sacrificing accuracy or reliability.
I imagine there's also a lot of pressure to make sure the data is processed quickly so it can be used to make timely decisions.
You're absolutely right. Latency, which is that delay between when the data is generated and when it's available for use, is a critical factor in real-time data processing.
So if there's a significant delay, the data might be useless for making decisions about things like inventory management or dynamic pricing.
Precisely. Alex needs to optimize his pipeline to minimize latency and ensure that the data is available when it's needed.
Wow, it sounds like building a real-time sales data pipeline is a pretty daunting task. What are some of the other challenges Alex might face along the way?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is data quality.
What do you mean by data quality?
I mean, ensuring that the data is accurate, complete, and consistent.
So it's like making sure you have all the right ingredients
Yeah.
and that they're fresh and properly measured?
Exactly. Poor data quality can lead to inaccurate insights, which can have a ripple effect on the entire business.
So how can Alex ensure data quality in his pipeline?
He can implement various data quality checks and validation rules throughout that ETL process. For example, he might use data profiling techniques to identify anomalies or inconsistencies in the data.
So it's like having a quality control inspector who checks each ingredient to make sure it meets the standards.
Precisely. Data quality is an ongoing process, and Alex needs to be vigilant in maintaining it.
Okay, we've talked about the challenges of handling real-time data and ensuring data quality. What other obstacles might Alex encounter as he builds his pipeline?
Well, another challenge is scalability. The pipeline needs to be able to handle increasing volumes of data as the company grows.
So it's like designing a kitchen that can handle a small dinner party as well as a large banquet.
Exactly. Alex needs to choose tools and technologies that can scale to meet the company's future needs.
I'm guessing this is where cloud computing comes in.
You got it. Cloud platforms like AWS and Azure offer a wide range of services that can be used to build scalable and cost-effective data pipelines.
It sounds like Alex has a lot to consider as he designs and builds this real-time sales data pipeline.
He does. But he's also learning and growing as he tackles these challenges, gaining valuable experience that will serve him well throughout his career.
Well, we've seen Alex dive deep into the world of data engineering, tackling the complexities of real-time data processing, data quality, and scalability. What happens next? Does he manage to overcome these obstacles and create a successful pipeline?
Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll see if Alex's hard work pays off and how his data pipeline ultimately impacts the company's success.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
We're about to find out if Alex can pull it all together.
After weeks of meticulous planning, intense coding, and probably countless cups of coffee, the moment of truth has arrived for our data engineer, Alex.
He's ready to launch this real-time sales data pipeline into the wild.
Yeah, I can only imagine the mix of excitement and nerves he must be feeling right now.
Oh, it's got to be a lot like an artist unveiling their masterpiece to the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's the atmosphere like as Alex gets ready to, flip the switch?
You can feel the buzz in the air at the startup.
Everyone's gathered around their monitors, eagerly anticipating the results of Alex's hard work.
Yeah, they know that this pipeline has the potential to completely revolutionize the way they do business.
It's all come down to this.
Alex takes a deep breath, double-checks his code one last time, and with a click of a button, sets his data pipeline in motion.
And then what? Does everything work perfectly right out of the gate?
Well, in the world of data engineering, things rarely go exactly according to plan.
Right. There are always going to be those unexpected hiccups, those challenges to overcome.
Exactly. But Alex is prepared.
Okay.
He's spent weeks testing and refining his pipeline, anticipating potential issues, and building in safeguards.
That's good.
So as the data starts flowing through the pipeline, he's carefully monitoring every step of the process, watching for any signs of trouble.
What kinds of things is he looking for?
He's keeping a really close eye on data quality, making sure that the data is being cleansed, transformed correctly. He's also monitoring the pipeline's performance, checking for any bottlenecks or delays that might impact the real-time aspect of the system.
Right, of course.
And of course, he's on the lookout for any errors or exceptions that might need his immediate attention.
So it's kind of like a captain navigating a ship through uncharted waters, right?
Yes.
Constantly adjusting course, making sure everything's running smoothly.
Exactly.
That's a great analogy.
But, despite a few minor bumps along the way, Alex's pipeline It performs admirably.
Okay,
The data's flowing smoothly, the transformations are happening correctly, and the insights, well, they're starting to pour in.
that's fantastic.
A collective sigh of relief sweeps through the startup as everyone realizes that Alex has pulled it off.
He's a hero.
He created a system that will give them a real-time pulse on their sales performance.
That's amazing.
But it's not just about the technology, is it?
No, you're right. At the end of the day, it's about how this data is used to improve the business.
Exactly. So let's take a look at how Alex's pipeline impacts the different teams within the startup.
Okay, sounds good.
Starting with the inventory team.
Okay.
Armed with this real-time sales data, they can now optimize their stock levels, ensuring they have the right products in the right quantities at the right time.
No more overstocking items that aren't selling or running out of those popular products.
Precisely. This leads to increased efficiency, reduced waste, and ultimately happier customers.
Right, because they're getting what they want when they want it. Perfect.
Exactly.
So what about the marketing team? How does the pipeline impact their work?
Well, now they have access to up-to-the-minute data on customer buying behavior.
Oh, that's powerful.
Oh, yeah. So they can tailor their marketing campaigns to specific customer segments, personalize their messaging, optimize their ad spend.
Wow, that's incredibly valuable.
It is. And it results in more targeted and effective marketing campaigns, leading to higher conversion rates and increased revenue.
So it sounds like Alex's pipeline is a win-win for everyone.
It is. And as the positive results start rolling in, Alex's contributions are recognized and celebrated throughout the company.
He's the data hero.
Mm.
But beyond the accolades, what are some of the key takeaways from Alex's journey?
Well, I think it highlights the incredible impact that data engineering can have on a business. And it's not just about those technical skills, right?
Right.
It's about understanding the business needs, solving real-world problems, and ultimately using data to drive better outcomes.
I love that.
Alex's story also shows just how important perseverance, adaptability, and that willingness to embrace challenges are.
Because they're going to come up, right?
They are. The world of data engineering is constantly evolving, so it's essential to be a lifelong learner and to stay ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. So for anyone listening who might be inspired by Alex's story and considering a career in data engineering, what advice would you give them?
I'd say focus on building a strong foundation in programming, databases, and data manipulation techniques.
Those are the essentials.
They are. And don't be afraid to get your hands dirty with real-world projects. The more you practice, the better you'll become.
Great advice. Now, as we wrap up this deep dive into data engineering, I want to circle back to one of the key themes we've explored, the power of data-driven decision-making.
Yes.
Alex's story perfectly illustrates how a skilled data engineer can empower an organization to make smarter decisions, optimize their operations, and ultimately achieve greater success.
Data is everywhere, and it's only becoming more valuable.
Absolutely. So if you're looking for a career that's both challenging and rewarding, data engineering might be the perfect fit for you.
It might be. And if you're looking for a way to level up your career or to find that perfect data engineering role, be sure to check out Afterwork.
Yes, they're the ones who brought us this deep dive. And they have a fantastic platform that connects talented individuals with some really exciting opportunities in the world of data.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring, and don't forget to subscribe to the Deep Dive for more explorations into this fascinating world of data and technology.